So here are GitHub stars. The red line is JJ. Oh, wow. So it's growing pretty fast. And the others are some like similar tools, like Sapling from Facebook and Git Butler. They're still ahead by, I don't know, a percent or something. Yeah, so yeah, it's growing very quickly. It started 5 years ago, I think. And yeah, as Daniel said, it's a VCS. It's compatible with Git. You can use it with Git repos, GitHub repos. You can use it with Gerrit. But it's also its own VCS. So it has like a Git backend that lets you use Git repos, and it has like you can use your own backends for other storage, and that's what we do at Google. We have store our repositories in a big database of like where each commit is one row and like each tree is one row and so on. So like the commits from every developer at Google lives in one big commit cloud, as we call it. And yeah, so we're working on that internally. I don't think I can share how many users we have right now, but the plan is to roll it out to everyone and replace the current system, which is based on Mercurial. And yeah, like within the next year or so. So should I maybe show, how many here have tried it? Yeah. Heard of it? You heard of it? Yeah.
You're getting 5 new users today.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think maybe I'll explain just briefly the differences, the big changes compared to Git, and then it's best if I show a demo. It makes it easier. Yeah, so one big difference is that the working copy is a commit. It's like whenever you run a JJ command, it automatically snapshots the changes in your working copy and it becomes a commit, and you work with the changes in your working copy like any other commit. And this makes it a simpler user interface. You don't have this, you don't have like Git has the diff with the -- stage, the -- cache, I don't remember all these, and reset soft and hard and mixed and all this stuff. The working copy is just a commit, and it's always, it also gives you backup. So whenever you run a command, you get your working copy backed up, and you're always free to check out a different commit. There's not going to complain that your working copy is dirty or something. Yeah, another big thing is that it supports recording conflicts in commits. So when you run into a conflict, it becomes a commit, which is gets stored. We store the inputs to the conflict, so we can reproduce the conflicted state in your working copy or in diff and whatever. And that means like every rebase or merge will succeed, and you can resolve the conflicts whenever you want. One thing that enables is that we can always rebase all descendants. So whenever you, like in Git, like if you check out an old commit and amend, then it's your problem to rebase everything on top afterwards. JJ takes care of that always because it's possible, because conflicts can just be recorded. And also there are, we record you don't need branches. You don't need to create named branches for your commits. So I don't know if anyone here has used Mercurial. It's the same thing. You can create commits on top of each other and go to a different branch, and the old ones will remain. It's not like a detached head in Git where it gets GC'd after a while.
So it must be some version of a branch, though.
Yeah. So the tool keeps track of the current set of visible heads. So whenever you rewrite a commit, like if it's the tip of a branch, then that commit gets rewritten as a different commit. The old one gets forgotten, and the repository like points to the new commit instead.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's probably easiest if I %. So let's see.
Will you use it just like with a Git backend or?
Yeah, so yeah, well, this is, I'll show you the Git pack in this. Yeah, so there's, we can run JJ git clone. So there's the subcommands under Git are all for interacting with Git repository specifically.
So if I was interacting with a non-Git repository, that would be Git Mercurial clone?
There's no Mercurial clone, but there's we have for our internal backends at Google. There's a JJ Piper, not called clone, but it can create a new.
And is that clone like because it's a Git command that is a clone, or is that still JJ that is doing a clone of a Git? Does that make sense as a question?
I think you're asking if we sub-process to Git.
Yeah.
We do, but it's not that simple. It's so it is a native. Well, it's not a native. Well, it's a subcommand of JJ. JJ git clone is a JJ command.
Okay.
And it does call out to git clone or
Okay.
git fetch. I think actually. Yeah,
So
under the hood.
It's a JJ command that is doing a Git operation.
Yes.
But right now it's Git, right? It's not JJ. Or you are.
So JJ, as I said, like JJ has multiple backends.
Oh, okay.
It is its own VCS,
Okay,
but like it can store. I'll,
Yeah, you are, okay.
I'll show you. So we cloned this Hello World repository from GitHub. Go into that. There will be so we have this .jj directory, and inside of that here is the actual Git repository where we store commits and so on. But we also store stuff that's not, so store is what basically the commit storage. We also store other stuff that's not just the Git repository, like yeah, we store. I'll explain what the operations store and stuff are later, but yeah, there's other stuff outside of the Git repository, like we talked about I didn't call it by name anonymous heads, but like the tips of the branches that are not named. That's like recorded inside .jj, but not inside the Git repository. So the Git repository just keeps commits, entries, and then blobs. And we add a bunch of refs to prevent garbage collection of these commits you create off the side. So when you create commits, and you don't, as I said, you don't need a branch to keep them visible. We add Git refs to prevent garbage collection. You can run jjlog, which is also the default command. You can just run jj to get the log output. By default, we show only your local commits in some sense. So this is a small repo from GitHub, and it has like 10 commits or something. And we can see all of them if we run, for example. We can write it in several ways, but like this. That's all the commits, but like by default, all these or most of these commits are on the server, and we don't show them by default because you usually don't care about them.
Are they pre-fetched in any way, or?
Oh, no, so when you run JJ git clone, it does clone the whole repo.
Okay.
We just don't.
You just don't show.
Yeah, it's just a log command that filters them out.
Okay, so gitlog only shows the repos on the branch.
It shows you all the commits that are local, plus the closest parent for context. So you can see that if I just ran JJ, it's going to show you that. So for context, we show this one, so you know that this is branched off of the master branch. And so yeah, this commit is empty, no description. This is what I mentioned, the working copy commit. So whenever you run a command, we create this working copy commit, and this is like where you make your changes. So if we make some changes to, I don't know what files there were here, readme, so we update this one and run JJ again. It did a snapshot of the working copy, and so this commit is no longer empty. It still has no description. We could have set the description before, which is nice. Like if you can plan your work and set the description, and you can create a bunch of commits even that are just empty, and then you fill them in as you actually work. So you can have a bunch of empty commits as your to-do list kind of. And yeah, so you can set the description at any time, like this. Yeah, by default it changes the description of the working copy commits, but you can change the description of any commit. Yeah, so we have created one commit. Let's see, there were some other. This is another way of getting basically the same thing, all commits. So let's say we want to create another commit. We can create it off of the main branch again. So we run JJ new, which creates a new commit with the working copy. For the working copy, I mean, it creates a new commit and makes that the working copy. So it does two things. It's not called main, it's called master here. Yeah. So if we run log, or again just JJ. Yeah, sorry. So my default command actually shows just the current branch, but the default command shows all branches like this. So sorry if I confused you. Yeah, so we create a new empty commit, and of course we can start making changes here as in any other.
And then if I wanted to edit commit ZZPL.
Yes. Yeah, so let's say we make some other changes here. And now we want to go back and edit this one. There's an edit command to go back and edit an existing commit and make that the working copy.
But these are all local, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, it works. It behaves very similar to Git when you use the Git backend, because.
But the branch stuff is different.
If you think about it, it feels a lot more like branching in Gerrit, like where you don't have branches.
Yeah.
You just create commits and push them for review, and it creates kind of parallel virtual branch if you want to use Git-bat as terminology.
Oh, yeah, speaking of Gerrit, I forgot to mention that, of course, this thing, the ZZLP something, is a change ID, what we call a change ID, which is very similar to what Gerrit calls a change ID. So, and you can use that to refer to these commits as they evolve.
So what does Z mean? The edit is Z. Z mean the change ID, or?
You mean just the Z?
Yeah.
That's the unique prefix that's enough to refer to it. So.
Okay.
So this is the convention, or you can come up with your own change ID?
They're just randomly generated.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess it's a good time to mention that Gerrit, the Gerrit team at Google is planning on adding support for JJ by the end of the year, from what I understand, at least the first version of support for JJ. So yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah. These change IDs, the JJ change IDs, not the Gerrit change IDs, are we write them to Git commit header these days. What next? Conflicts.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's. So if you remember this commit K, it added this line, and the current commit added a conflicting line. So if we rebase one on top of the other, it will result in conflict. Let's first. I can show you. You can, as we said before, you can set the description on any commit. So this is the bar commit. I guess I should have called the first one the foo commit. So now, if we rebase the bar commit onto the Z commit, like this, that will result in conflicts. It will tell us, and it looks like this, but it didn't stop the rebase. So now we can continue to work on this commit, or we can start working on a new commit, and we can resolve it whenever we want to. And so I think an interesting thing here is that, as I said, they're recorded as, like, the inputs to the conflict are recorded. It's not conflict markers that are recorded. We do show it, like, display it as conflict markers. But it's not, and like if I create a new commit on top of this one, on top of K, and look at the file, it shows a conflict marker here. So that's how we, like, materialize the conflict in the working copy, kind of similar to Git. It's a slightly different conflict marker style, but it's the same, basically the same thing.
Okay, and so yeah, in the log you see it with conflict.
Yes, and so it was the K change here had the conflict, and since I created a new commit on top, the same conflict is still there, right? So my child commit also has a conflict. The working copy commit here has a conflict, like a way of showing, like, how these conflicts are really not stored as conflict markers. Like, if you rebase this commit, S means to, like, kind of detach at the K commits, rebase it onto master again. So this is going to take K and its descendants, so our working copy too, rebase it onto master, and the conflicts are gone.
Oh, so it automatically does the whole chain of rebases.
So the -S flag means take the specified commit and all the descendants, which was K and M in this case. And then we rebased those onto master. And it applies cleanly there, because what the change did was to change from the original README to the README with bar. And since it's no longer on top of the README with foo at the end, there's no longer conflict.
So Luca asks, what happens to the JJ data that's stored locally that's not pushed to Git?
I'm not sure. Is the question basically how to get this to someone else?
Yeah.
So we ran the JJ git clone command before. There's a JJ git push command as well. And as before, this is actually a JJ command. So it has its own flags. It's not like the git push flags exactly. So we can say JJ git push -r to push K. I think my remote here is the GitHub repo, so I don't have access, but okay, right. We need to our Git remote, of course, requires a bookmark, a branch. So we need to so we can say that we want to, if we push commit commit K with the -C flag, it's going to invent a branch on the remote for us, which works well when you're just sending for code review, for example, on GitHub. Usually, most reviewers don't care much about the branch name, and I don't. So, yeah. So JJ has something called bookmarks, which is very similar to Git branches. So master here is actually a bookmark. It's imported from the Git remote, the branch from the Git repository. And we just call it a bookmark instead. They behave a bit differently. They don't automatically advance when you create commits on top of them, like Git's branches do. If you have them active, like if head points to a branch, then it gets updated. So you can use this and it will push it to. Does that answer Luca's question?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that will create a PR.
Yes. Well, a branch, but yeah, then it's.
Create a branch. Okay.
It's a separate. That depends on their.
And if you want to update that branch.
You can do the same thing. You can run the same command again, and it will force push the branch to the remote.
Always force push?
Well, depending. If it moved sideways, then it will be a force push. If it's moved forward, it will be a regular push. So I'm not sure why you said you think it's weird to force push? Because I was thinking that as Gerrit users, it's pretty normal to force push, isn't it?
No, no,
force push is not.
No?
Force push actually messes up.
Yeah.
Really? So what do people do the same thing as with on GitHub, that they put like fixed subcommits on top, or what do
you amend your current commit, and so that creates new patch sets of that commit. And then if you've got a stack of commits, then you just keep amending each commit, but you never push. You never force push. Really.
Oh, sure, but that's basically the same thing.
You're right, and maybe this is something that people don't realize. So on a patch set, you can actually push something completely different with the same change ID, and it will fully override the previous patch set.
Yeah.
So you're right. And we're not force pushing, but in some ways.
You're not force pushing to the target branch, but you're replacing an existing commit with a new commit. Yeah.
So in the GitHub UI, does it always show only one commit?
That's a good question.
Yeah, so yes, GitHub is not the best code review tool.
I agree.
So yes, so when we do, it's up to the project. Like in our project, the JJ project itself, our our GitHub repository, we do prefer, or we only accept force pushes. So we even though the GitHub UI is not great, like there's I don't know if you use GitHub, but there's a compare button you can click to kind of see the difference compared to last time. But it's also like if someone rebased the branch, then that includes all those changes. It's as I said, that's GitHub's fault. Sorry.
With force pushes in one word.
No, it does.
Use a struct of the previous.
No. If you add commits on top, then you can just look at those commits.
But you won't be able to look into the difference between the previous commit and what you just force push.
You can. That's what the compare thing does in GitHub.
If you force push.
Yes. It just compares the previous version of the branch to the new version. So if all you did was amend a commit, then that shows you exactly what you wanted.
So how's the remote log looks with the JJ?
Yeah, if you force it.
Remote, what does that mean?
This is your local log, right? So once you push, how does that log?
Oh, I mean, it's the same as Git. It's because the remote is a GitHub or something repository, right? So whatever GitHub does.
So you're using force push. Is that a Git force push or is that a JJ force?
It's actually a Git force with lease push. So it will not overwrite changes that were made, like unrelated changes that were made on the remote. Yeah.
So, and how do you revert?
Oh, yeah, I haven't shown you. So I talked about I mentioned there is an operation store. You saw that directory.
Right.
So we have this log of operations too. So JJ op log shows a log of the operations I made, the changes I made in this repository. The most recent thing what we did was this rebase, where we rebased it back, and the conflicts were resolved again, right? So now we can undo, and it goes back to the state we just had before that rebase. So using this log of operations, we can restore back to any point in time in this repository.
So JJ undo goes back one?
It goes back. It's a bit complicated. It actually can undo a past operation without undoing more recent one. It's a bit hard to understand what that actually is.
Does that do something in the middle, is what you're saying?
Yes, but it's a bit hard to understand what that actually does. So generally people instead go back, like if you want to.
People really need to know what they're doing.
Yeah, yes.
Because if you just type undo, then it will do undo, but...
If you just undo, it will undo the most recent thing,
Yeah,
which is...
Which is safe, right?
Sorry.
which is safe. The
Yes.
most recent is undo is safe.
Yes.
But something in the middle.
It's hard to reason about. Yeah.
But if you're doing that, then you know what you're doing.
What do you do?
You better.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you screw it up, you undo again. It's and like if you wanted to go back, if you want to go back to, I don't know if you did anything fun here, probably not. But let's just pick an arbitrary commit here.
Yeah.
So you can do, we can, for example, we can load the repository at this operation that I've just picked arbitrarily. We can run any command at that command. We can run status. We can look at the current commit at that point in time. And if we want to say we're happy, we prefer this state back here, we can just do op restore. This is, I think, basically what you were hoping that undo would do, but it's yeah.
But the old history still exists somewhere, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Restore?
Yes. Now we can like undo that restore. Yes. So I mean, I miss this all the time when I use. I almost never use Git, but like once in a while, or Mercurial. It's.
If you're not, what would a native JJ review UI look like?
I mean, because I don't know if it's been clear so far, but like we try to make it very easy to modify history and write clean commits.
Yeah.
So it would be something similar to Gerrit's, like where you.
But does it exist, or is it?
We always rely on something else so far. For the JD project itself, we use GitHub, even though, as I said, we don't really like the UI, but it's what we have. Internally at Google, we do have a native server, but that server doesn't have a native code review tool or a way of even submitting commits. So you, submit means merge in GitHub speak. So what we like, you can create your commits as very, very similar to what I showed you. It looks the same when you work internally in Git in Google's huge repository with like hundreds of millions of commits. But then you need to run a command to like export that to our old system, and that's where the code review tool runs. And once code review is done, it gets merged in the old system, and then it gets imported back into the JJ commit cloud.
Okay.
So, but yeah, eventually we hope we will just do code reviews directly on the JJ commits, not without this export import steps.
And so now you're saying you would just do it on the client.
No, I'm saying it depends on the remote. So like with the outside of Google, most people use GitHub. There's GitLab, there's Gerrit. We have quite many Gerrit users on our Discord chat. So yeah, you can use whatever you already use with Git.
I think you said this, but just to repeat, JJ doesn't have a true backend then?
Yes, good question. Yes and no. I would argue that the Google backend is JJ native backend, but there can be many. For a while I did feel like we should have one native backend, but I think it's just like there will be many native backends. The Git backend is not native, I would say, because we store some stuff in the Git commits and some stuff outside of the Git commits. But yes, eventually we do want I think the community is quite aligned and wants like an open source server and like backed by a cloud database, and so with experience similar to what we have at Google, where you can. I didn't actually explain that, I think, but as I said, like at Google, all the commits from everyone live in one big cloud. You don't see everyone else's like ongoing work, obviously, because that's just not manageable. But like you can, like if you write a commit, you can just give me the commit hash and I can check it out and continue working on it, for example. So we want an experience like that outside of Google's log, but like the operation log.
It's just a local for the user. It's nothing. It doesn't go anywhere.
If you use the Git backend, yes, it's local to the user, like the operation log, yes. But yeah, you see like my host name is here, and obviously it like transitively refers to lots and lots of commits that were not ready, and maybe I don't want to share them. So yeah.
Okay, got a few questions here. I want to try and get through them. Sorry. Quite a few are interesting. What's the largest repo maintained at Google using JJ? In other words, it is scalable for larger repos.
Yeah, well, so at Google it's just one repository, and it's, I said in my Git merge talk last fall that I demoed a rebase from commit number 500 million to commit number 600 million, so I guess we have at least that many commits, kind of.
Okay.
And like number of files. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say, but yeah, it's a lot of files.
It's a lot of files.
Yeah.
Okay. Would JJ changes be more nicely accessible and readable with Gerrit rather than GitHub?
I think that I don't know. This seems like a matter of preference, but like I think it matches, as I said, like very well the Gerrit model where you amend commits and instead of adding fix-up commits. Like
it feels to me like the client that Gerrit wants, and the one that he deserves. Unlike Batman. All right. How does JJ accept contributions? PRs or JJ changes?
PRs, yes, because it's on GitHub. That's That's.
Any plans for a UI integration like IntelliJ or like add-ons like that?
So there are several different tools popping up. There's one. I think the most popular idea integration is called Visual JJ. There's visualjj.com.
Okay.
There's also.
And that's not a Google project. That's
no.
Okay.
Yeah, none of these. None of the like. Integrations or tools are. There's a JJ. There is a JJ2. There's Lazy JJ. There's JJ UI. There's
a few.
Yeah.
Last two questions. Well, one is a question. One is a statement. How does the JJ non-Git data pushed to Git is it tolerated by non-JJ clients? How does JJ and non-JJ clients interact together?
Yeah, I did touch on that a bit, and like as long as if it's just a regular commit, it's going to look like exactly like a Git commit. But like the additional data, the change ID, as I said, we're starting to write it. It's actually off by default still, but it will soon be on by default and be transferred. So if I push a commit with some change ID and you pull that, you will see the same change ID. And conflicts, we just prevent it because most forges and other clients will not be able to understand what they're looking at. But other than that, the data is stored in Git commits.
So, and that leads us nicely onto the last statement. It seems like conflicts being first-class citizen in JJ should be transferable to another user. And I feel like Gerrit has also the knowledge of, or has the ability to commit conflicts, but they're not first-class citizens. In the sense that if you're doing, for example, a chain of rebases and there are conflicts, you can click on enable allow with conflicts. So if you've got a patch set of commits in Gerrit and you want to say rebase, you can say rebase all ancestors. Say you've got 10 commits. And then, you can also click on allow conflicts and they will be committed. But I don't think they're first-class citizens. Yeah. As in, the change is then put in WIP state. So you would realize at some point, unless you've got no code review really. But I feel like if you're using Gerrit with JJ, there should probably be a way of like pushing those conflicts for review.
Yes, but Gerrit will not, unless Gerrit gains support for it, they will not understand what.
All right.
So what we actually do when we write these conflicts to Git, we store the input trees in the roots directory of the actual tree. So there will be the roots tree of the git commit has like a .jj base 0 subdirectory that's the actual base inputs to the conflict, and there's like a few more of those. So that means they are actually transferred, because that's how Git works. It transfers all that it depends on.
All right, I think that's all the questions here, and you've been talking about it. Go for it.
One last silly question. Why JJ?
It's
Good question.
it's easy to type.
Yeah, okay.
And,
I don't know if it stood for something or.
So it stands for Jujutsu.
Now it does. It started with just.
Oh,
it was,
now it does.
Easy to type.
It's easy to type, and it's easy to replace, because it was a placeholder name. I assumed it. So I didn't want to call it GG, because then like everywhere you have logging, for example, you're going to replace that by Jujutsuing.
Wait, so then the Jujutsu name came later?
Yes. It was called Jujube for a while. The fruit.
All right, interesting.
But no one
All right.
seemed to know what that is. So
I'm going to try and enable my microphone and see if that's probably why Luca didn't hear me before. Cool, all right. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate your time. Thanks, Marty, for coming over. Good talk. Catch you all next time.